back to Resistance Chicks. We're your hosts, Leah and Michelle. Today is Thursday, August 3rd, 2017. One thing that I love about press conferences is it's kind of like watching improv comedy, right? You get the best of the people, and sometimes the worst of the worst, and they go at it with like really no previous laid out script. You're just going to get what you're going to get, and it makes it very exciting for those of us that get to watch.
We've got this Miller guy, who he's kind of new on the scene for me. He's a new guy on the, press
we'll see how well he does.
Secretariat here. And Jim Acosta here, and they start talking about Trump's new immigration policy, to which Acosta says, so what, are we only going to allow people from Britain and Australia in because they're the only ones that speak English? And he went in this big long tirade where he literally quoted the entire poem or something from the Statue of Liberty. And
give me your tired, give me your poor.
But I'm going to give you this little clip here of where he's talking about, like, the only people who speak English are from the UK or Australia.
The notion of, well, they could learn, they have to learn English before they get to the United States. Are we just going to bring in people from Great Britain and Australia?
Jim, actually, I'm going to say, I am shocked at your statement that you think that only people from Great Britain and Australia would know English. It reveals your cosmopolitan bias to a shocking degree that in your mind, no, this is an amazing moment. This is an amazing moment that you think only people from Great Britain or Australia would speak English is so insulting to millions of hard-working immigrants who do speak English from all over the world. Jim, have you honestly never met an immigrant from another country who speaks English outside of Great Britain and Australia? Is that your personal experience?
Of course there are people who come.
But that's not what you said, and it shows your cosmopolitan bias. And I just want to say,
it sounds like you're trying to engineer the racial and ethnic flow of people into this country.
Jim, that is one of the most outrageous, insulting, ignorant, and foolish things you've ever said. And for you, that's still a really the notion that you think that this is a racist bill is so wrong and so insulting.
Well said.
This is really funny to me. We're moving on to another section here.
At the end of the day, why do special interests want to bring in more low-skilled workers, and why historically?
I'm not asking for common sense. I'm asking for specific.
Well, I think it's very clear, Glenn, that you're not asking for common sense. But if I could just answer. If I could just answer your question, I named the studies, Glenn. Glenn, I named the studies. I
asked you for a statistic. Can you tell me how many?
Maybe we'll make a carve-out in the bill that says the New York Times can hire all the low-skilled, less-paid workers they want from other countries, and see how you feel then about low-wage substitution. This is a reality that's happening in our country. Maybe it's time we had compassion, Glenn, for American workers. President Trump has met with American workers who've been replaced by foreign workers, and ask them how this has affected their lives. Look at. I just told you.
Low-skilled jobs that Americans might otherwise have. Why?
If you look, first of all, if you look at the premise, Glenn, of bringing in low-skilled labor, it's based on the idea that there's a labor shortage for lower-skilled jobs. There isn't. The number of people living in the United States in the working ages who aren't working today is at a record high. 1 in 4 Americans, or almost 1 in 4 Americans between the ages of 25 and 54 aren't even employed.
That's pretty scary. Okay, so I'm going to take you to one more press conference here, and then we're going to discuss the
question is, everybody wants to try to make this some story about misleading. The only thing I see misleading is a year's worth of stories that have been fueling a false narrative about this Russia collusion and based on phony scandal, based on anonymous sources. And I think that is, if we're going to talk about misleading, that's the only thing misleading I see in this entire process. You guys are focused on a meeting that Don Jr. had no consequence when the Democrats actually colluded with a foreign government like Ukraine. The Democrat-linked firm Fusion GPS actually took money from the Russian government while it created a phony dossier that's been the basis for all of the Russia scandal fake news. And if you want to talk further about a relationship with Russia, look no further than the Clintons. As we've said time and time again, Bill Clinton was paid $500,000 to give a speech to a Russian bank and was personally thanked by Putin for it. Hillary Clinton allowed 1/5 of America's uranium to reserve to be sold to a Russian firm whose investors were Clinton Foundation donors, and the Clinton campaign chairman's brother lobbied against sanctions on Russia's largest bank and failed to report it. If you guys want to talk about having relations, which you seem obsessed with doing, look no further than there. If you want to talk about somebody who's actually been tough on Russia, look at President Trump. He wants more fracking, more coal, more energy, a stronger military, a stronger defense. Those things aren't good for Russia. I think the distinctions are very clear, and you guys want to create a narrative that just doesn't exist.
Boom, dropped it like a hot potato. She did.
I don't personally want more fracking.
Yeah, me neither. But
Okay.
the point is, she did make a valid point that those things are not good for Russia.
Right. Okay, so now we're going to take what is this whole new immigration policy to kind of sum it up. Well, I'll sum it up after the president does. The president really is the president.
thought that.
You're thinking
Donald
Trump is
I know it's
president.
kind of weird. It's still weird.
The
Still weird
RAISE
now.
Act will reduce poverty, increase wages, and save taxpayers billions and billions of dollars. It will do this by changing the way the United States issues green cards to nationals from other countries. Green cards provide permanent residency, work authorization, and fast track to citizenship. For decades, the United States was operated and has operated a very low-skilled immigration system, issuing record numbers of green cards to low-wage immigrants. This policy has placed substantial pressure on American
That's called slavery.
Right.
workers, taxpayers, and community resources. Among those hit the hardest in recent years have been immigrants.
Sorry.
And very importantly, minority workers competing for jobs against brand new arrivals. And it has not been fair to our people, to our citizens, to our workers. The RAISE Act ends chain migration and replaces our low-skilled system with a new points-based system for receiving a green card. This competitive application process will favor applicants who can speak English, financially support themselves and their families, and demonstrate skills that will contribute to our economy. The RAISE Act prevents new migrants and new immigrants from collecting welfare and protects U.S. workers from being displaced. And that's a very big thing. They're not going to come in and just immediately go and collect welfare. That doesn't happen under the RAISE Act. They can't do that. Crucially, the green card reforms in the RAISE Act will give American workers a pay raise by reducing unskilled immigration. This legislation will not only restore our competitive edge in the 21st century, but it will restore the sacred bonds of trust between America and its citizens. This legislation demonstrates our compassion for struggling American families who deserve an immigration system that puts their needs first and that puts America first. Finally, the reforms in the RAISE Act will help ensure that newcomers to our wonderful country will be assimilated, will succeed, and will achieve the American dream.
Okay,
The
so
RAISE Act.
Oh, sorry. This is really important to me. Did you want to say something right away?
Well, when you're giving charity, somebody coming to America, immigrating to America, charity is out of the goodness of your heart and out of your blessings.
Right.
So Americans can't give anything to anybody unless they're provided for first.
Right.
And then if they're extra, then you give your charity out of what you have above and beyond.
There's two things here, and I heard this earlier this morning, and I was thinking about our family that immigrated here from other countries. Now I'm thinking about my grandfather who came over with his brother and our great grandma and great grandfather
Sweden.
and they didn't expect any or ask for or get any government handout. They came with a plan. My great grandfather couldn't hack it. He went back. My grandfather, for all intents and purposes, he might have been an alcoholic.
He was an entrepreneur.
But he worked his way up from nothing. He came here poor.
Right.
But he worked his way up. Now my point is that you can come here poor, but you have to be able to sustain yourself, which is they did not take any government handouts.
Right.
None. Okay?
And I feel for those of you that want America to be able to help every human being on the planet.
Right.
You just want to. I think we would all love it if America could take in everybody.
But isn't it weird? It's kind of a weird feeling when you think to yourself, well, we did this and it makes me feel better. We could always do a little bit more. So I'm always going, so there are always going to be those people who know that we can't do everything, but they're the people who think we always need to do more.
But what's really unfortunate, and I know you're going to get to another point here, but is that unfortunately, you guys that have these feelings, you're okay with having these low-skilled workers come in and do the low-skilled jobs because you feel like that's helping them out. Well, and you guys are like, but they'll work for that little, and that's a lot of money to them, and this could change their life, and so it's okay for them to work the 80, 90-hour weeks in the grueling sun for a couple of dollars, okay? I mean, it's that you guys think that that's okay. Well, actually, no. You may take it a step further. No, they should be paid a little bit more.
But you don't want to pay them more.
But you don't want to do the work. You still want to buy your cheap strawberries, and you want to have a class system. So you need to analyze what you're asking. What Trump is saying is we want our own American workers. We want American people to be doing
a living wage that is not going to put them on welfare. Everyone knows that your strawberry pickers, your grape pickers are all on government food stamps. So we've talked about this before. Everything you eat cheaply that is produced cheaply by people being paid a low wage, your lettuce clippers and all this stuff.
It's called slavery. We have slavery here in the United States, and we get them. We don't bring them over on boats, tortured, where they're, you know what I mean, they die and they get thrown overboard. We don't whip them in the back. No. We've evolved from that. We bring them over here from Mexico. We got our little slaves.
And we get our clothes and everything from Thailand and the Philippines.
We have slavery everywhere.
Yeah, it's really disgusting, actually. But if you don't know anybody who has a trade, let's say a roofer or carpentry or landscaping, those are the three ones that came to my mind when I was thinking about it. People that I know,
right,
who used to be carpenters, who used to be home builders, who used to be roofers. Now, I don't know about wherever you're at, but I can almost guarantee you
the tree guys,
that when you see people taking down trees, when you see people landscaping, when you see people putting on roofs, 9 times out of 10 around here, they're brown-skinned Mexicans who don't speak a lick of English. We just had trees taken down. We wanted the wood chips. We were trying to talk to them and say, hey, can we have the wood chips? Only one guy spoke English. The rest of them were nice enough, but they didn't speak any English whatsoever.
Right. So why is this a problem? That goes back to what Miller was saying a minute ago, is he said 1 in 4 Americans between the age of 25 and
55 don't have work. Because they're not willing, and it makes sense, they'll take their government food stamps and stuff like that. They're not going to do that breaking work. They're not going to get on the roof. They're not going to build, well, actually,
they would have. A lot of them used to. That's what...
What I mean is they're not going to do it now for like $5 an hour.
Right.
These are hard jobs. But these tree guys who work all day long, they're paying them probably under the table because they don't even speak English, right? These are most likely undocumented workers. They don't speak English. They've got, some of them have got to be undocumented workers, illegal immigrants. And they can pay them under the table cash. They're not paying any taxes. You know it. And then there were different crews they were running through. They had all Mexican crews, and then they had some other crews. And it used to be that when houses were put on, they were put on by Americans who all spoke English.
You mean built?
Built. The roofs were put on houses. Okay. I'm thinking about roofing because that's roofing and carpentry and landscaping. Landscaping is the big one. You used to see all landscapers were Americans who spoke English. But now, the running joke is, I mean, even just Bezak down the street employs all Mexicans.
That's our local landscaping company.
It's all. I mean, but here's the thing. The head guys, the lead guys, are all Americans who speak English, and then all their brunt workers.
So it's just like slavery all over again.
Exactly, and because they're being paid lower wages. We got a friend of ours who is in a farming business, and the other little part of this is that the American population, the American male population, the rural American population has been hit hard with heroin and hit hard with drugs. And so they can't keep the jobs. They can't keep working these jobs.
It's a systematic, designed epidemic.
Right, and the socialism And cultural Marxism, Mark Cruse's ideal was to have everything machine
Automated.
done, and so you didn't have to work.
Right.
Right? So they're trying to get there. So most everything's done
But
by
the missing element is the illegal immigrants that fill the gap.
Exactly.
We haven't quite gotten. How do you get the strawberry pickers, and how do you get somebody has to physically take down a tree and run these machines and things like that, and actually get up and do the roof. So here's the thing, guys. You have to understand, we have modern day slavery, and for those of you that say, well, they're willing slaves, and so if they're willing to do it for $5, or they're willing to do it...
Remember, everything in Mexico is cheaper. So they're actually, and life is not awesome for them, right? But just because life is not awesome for them and things are cheaper, doesn't mean that they should be paid any less. And so we actually have the more humane, loving kind. I want the roofers to compete on the same wage.
Right.
I want the skilled workers to all compete. I want the carpenters to get paid the same.
Right.
And then you're going to have equal. But right now, these undocumented workers, they're not even in the system. And so most of them are being paid under the table. And I don't understand how you guys think that that's okay. Because you're putting other people, I mean, I've talked to roofers, I've talked to carpenters.
Here's my question. For you bleeding heart people that just want to let all these Mexicans in. Have you been, what is the difference between the poor people in rural America that can't get jobs and the poor people coming up from Mexico stealing their jobs?
And it's not so much that they're stealing the jobs, they're being undercut. They're being undercut at every...
It's stealing.
Yeah.
If the Mexican is willing to do a job that a living wage would pay $15 to $20 an hour to do,
well, some of these
then they come
jobs,
and they do it for $5, $7 an hour. That is stealing the job from the American worker that can't live on $5 to $7 because they're not sending it back to Mexico where things are cheaper. It is stealing their job.
Some of the carpentry jobs, some of the masonry jobs, these are good. They were good paying jobs. They were $50 an hour jobs. I mean, these were good paying jobs. But these, you know, let's say a Mexican wants to come in and they're going to work for 10 or 15, especially under the table. Don't have to worry about all kinds of workman's comp or anything.
Before we get called racist or whatever, that is absolutely absurd. Leah and I always bring it back to what happened with NAFTA. We went in and we ruined all of Mexico with the GMO crops, and we flooded their farms with the corn, and literally destabilized their entire economy.
Yes, I'm not, and you know what? I'm not even going to blame it all on us. And I see that is a portion of it, but they always have had cartels. The cartels are running rampant.
But before NAFTA, there were more family farms.
Well, that's true.
Growing family crops in Mexico. And when you have that, you have a more moral, wholesome society, and we didn't have this massive flood and influx of illegal workers coming up here for jobs.
I think that the easiest way to show people that we're not racist is I want all Mexicans to be paid a decent wage. I don't want anyone working hard and not to get paid for it.
Right.
I would rather not eat the strawberries or the grapes or the fruit or the vegetables or wear the clothes than to have somebody be treated as a slave, to be paid slave wages. I mean, even Ivanka Trump's clothing, the people get paid like $1 or $2 a week or something like that.
But I mean, they're willing to work for it, and then it's kind of a blessing for them, and so I can see how that's okay. It's not okay. You know, in times of old, you paid a tailor or you made your own clothes.
Right.
And that was a big deal back then. We've gotten so far from that.
And I don't know the answer actually to switch this because it's so ingrained. Awareness to have clothing made in America by people.
I'm wearing one right now, not on purpose.
We can't even, our friend of ours bought this for us. I cannot afford this shirt.
It's
like $45 shirt.
It's Know Your Past. Defend Liberty.
It's a nice shirt.
TimsShirts.com. It's run by two
veterans.
Well, that just makes them veterans. 2 veterans, and they're running a company putting out patriotic t-shirts, but they're really expensive. So what we need are more American-made products And we need more entrepreneurs. We need more people working for themselves, doing their own
When
God
we say
called.
America first and things made in America, because when you know who made it, you can make the choice to make sure that they get paid a living wage.
And you can have a good conscience about
But I don't
what you've
know
done.
what people are doing in the Philippines or in Taiwan
Right.
or all these things. So no, it's going to be, I don't think we should be taking as much from these other countries, because I feel like we're cheating them. And I know there's a lot of people like, but yeah.
So if we still had slavery in the South, and
Right.
we know everything that we know now, we still have the slavery in the South, and you got the black people picking cotton.
Right.
And you know they're on that plantation picking cotton. Do you still buy the products that are made from that cotton when you know that it was slaves that picked it? That's the question. Leave your answer in the comments, because we want to hear from you guys. We're going to sign off here for Resistance Chicks, where it is not just a conspiracy theory if it's the truth. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Mass Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks. Ring the bell for notifications. Find us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. We love you. God loves you. God bless. Patriot Gallery has one more tip to add.
Wrap up all your news today is the Statue of Liberty says, give me your tire, give me your week, whatever. But we are and liberty says liberty. Our liberty is through God and Jesus Christ.
Yep.
And if you turn from your sins, turn to God, God will bless you with land.
Yep.
And you have to work that land, and you have to do things for yourself. So people come here for land. We came here for land. Our forefathers came here for land. They didn't. There was nobody that worked for them when they. I mean, my family came in 1800s. They came to Ohio. There was Indians in Ohio. They had to fight for themselves. They had to deliver themselves. They had to build their own houses, build their own homes. There were no regulations. They had to depend on God.
Right.
And the whole thing about Poland and Hungary and what was the other state?
Czech Republic.
They're not letting immigrants in because they know God. They're all, and in Russia, they're against Russia because we're coming back to God. Living the life is owning land and worship God freely. Exercise your freedom of religion.
And it's not that we don't want immigrants. Not that people are racist against immigration. It's people need to come here with the intention.
Millie Weaver
Slavery
did
was
an
set free by
episode
Christians,
of
by God.
Fly Over America, where she talked to a young woman whose mother had come, and she said, I don't like illegal immigration because my mom waited in line to get here. And she did it the right way. And I don't appreciate that other people are able to cut in front of what my mom had to go through in order to get here. And that's what we're dealing with when it comes to illegal immigration. We can only take in so many people. And that's why we have things in place like this RAISE Act that he's wanting to put forward, so that it's done in the proper manner. When you have just all heck breaking loose and craziness, you need to have order. And so for those of you that are pro having these open borders, you're all about chaos and not order. We cannot sustain a flood of illegal immigrants in our country. It has to be done the right way. We are pro-immigration. America is the melting pot. And the last thing I want to say is, to what the Patriot Gallery was saying, the scripture we bring it back to a lot of times is, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will come in and I will heal their land. So that's what we have to get to. If you want to have prosperity, if you want to have people able to immigrate into America in a beautiful way, that's where it starts. All right, goodbye guys.
Cold, all alone, no place for